Welcome back to Adventures of Spackmann, everybody. Today, we're looking at the Giraffe stove. Is this the future of hot tent camping? Stick around to find out. This stove is awesome. So what do you get in the bag? You get the stove, you get these tongs. I believe these are for loading the stove so you don't burn your hands, but just be a man and burn your hands. In this little pocket, there's a flame retardant ground sheet with a bag to hold it and store it. I haven't used this because I haven't needed to. I've always had it in a tent without a floor. It comes with a little bag of Allen keys to work on your stove. Tighten and loosen bolts as needed. It comes with a chimney guy line adapter with 3 metal carabiners to tie your lines to come off of the chimney. But that's not all, folks. When you reach your hand inside, there it is. It comes with gloves. I have not used these gloves. Once again, be a man, burn your hand. They're just leather gloves, so they're leather gloves. One more thing. Oh, it's today's sponsor of the video. Epic Water Filters Adventure Filter can save up to 750 plastic water bottles from the landfill. So not only are you drinking delicious water, you're helping the environment. Use code Spackmann for 20% off your purchase. Link in the description. You get the top burner plate. I thought this would have much more warpage than I've seen, but actually there's one bend in it. I'm not sure if you can see the bend. Right here. That's from me. I did that when it wasn't even on the stove. After one trip it was wet and I took it out, set it by my wood stove inside, let it all dry out, and I ended up stepping on this piece. It does not affect it whatsoever, and I am surprised that I haven't gotten any warpage out of this. It's still pretty darn flat. You get the main burner plate, which is right on top of the burn box. This is much thicker steel than that one. I'd say twice as thick, and this collects heat like crazy. This is where you want to cook when you're using it as a rocket stove. I've never boiled water so fast in the wintertime than on this rocket stove. The heat that gets displaced from right here is insane, and it boils water really fast. If anybody's been winter camping with a wood stove and tried to boil water on your wood stove, you know it takes a very long time. This does not. So along with all those accessories and the main stove body, you get 4 of these little stovepipes. Now, they're not little by any means. I'd call that 2 3/4. And it also comes with 2 big ones. Along with the stovepipes, it has the chimney connection piece. This can be hard to get off of the pipe sometimes. It's not creosote, it's just, it like gets cold welded to it or hot welded to it. It's just hard to get off, and I don't care. It's still, all these pipes fit into the stove, even with this on one end. So it's not a big deal. Oh, and the reason why I'm making the video today, the piece of resistance finally came in the mail. The ash pan and damper. Look how smooth that is. I don't know, I haven't used the stove with this yet, but I don't know how easily or how hard this is gonna be to open and close when it's hot. But right now, unhot, not hot, it moves very easily and freely. Now, originally my stove did not come with this. I wasn't sure if I had thrown it away by accident in the box or if my stove just didn't come with it, and there's no way I missed this big of a piece inside of my box. So my stove did not come with this, but I contacted the company and they sent it to me right away. And I'm really excited about this. Before I got it, I was just using a piece of metal to cover up the air intake down here, and this worked very well. You could see the fire tone right down, or when you open it up, you could see the fire start roaring. All right, let's get this stove going, guys. Don't do that at home. I don't recommend being a dump with your new stoves. There's 2 bolts on the legs that hold the whole stove together, and that's how you unlock it to unfold it. You just push them in, and then it starts to unfold. And that's when the magic happens. They are spring-loaded, so as soon as you unlock them, they go out. and then it just transforms into a stove. It's so, I love how it unfolds. It's really cool in my opinion. This end here can be a little tricky to get in there, but with a little force, it pops right in. Oh, it's got 2 handles that slide out too. These get extremely hot when it's running, so you don't want to lift it by these when it's running. Excuse me. You probably don't want to lift it at all when it's running, but if you have to, use sticks to pick it up by this end, by these handles. Here is the door, and this just slides right out. Goes down. Like I said, normally this wouldn't be attached to the pipe, but right now it is. It's got 4 fins that go into the fin holes. Fin holes, I just made that up. And then it spins and locks into place. They do fit in correctly too. The male piece fits into the female piece, and then that goes into the stove. So creosote drip is not a problem with the stove. And then it's set up. Now let's get a fire going. All the details on this stove are just amazing. It's got windows on both sides, one along the top, on both sides. Your main viewing windows where your burn chamber is, one on each side. And then the little lighting door. This thing is so cool. That's how you light the stove. Look at that little door. So cute, so cool. All the hinges everywhere. It's just a beautiful stove, guys. I really like this stove. If you can't tell, I really like this stove. Just hinges upon hinges upon hinges upon hinges. Indoors. Oh, and hinges. Just have some yellow birch bark here. Once you get your birch bark lit, you want to transfer your flame. Once you get your blowtorch lit, you transfer that flame to your fire via the little door. And then you close the door. And the stove does the rest from there. Hey, using the tongs. Now once you light this, it takes no time for it to start taking off like a rocket stove. And then it's just throwing heat. That is the best part about this stove. It throws heat from the whole thing, and it's huge. It's 30.5 inches long, 20.5 inches tall, 6.5 inches wide. Oh, this might be 6. Yeah, okay, so this burner's 6. The burn chamber's a little wider than the top cooking area thing. Cheers. This is the doorway opening. Make sure you use your gloves or 2 sticks and lift from both sides, like that. I'll show you with their gloves. And then load the stove with their included tongs. For high heat output, I use these little chunks of wood. They burn really hot, really fast. But you can also use bigger chunks of wood. Whatever will fit into the door. And then into the burn chamber. This is a pretty big piece of wood. And this thing is just hot. It is really hot. You have this whole space underneath it to dry wood, dry your boots, put your feet underneath it, it warms your toes. This whole space is pretty cool. You have this whole cooking area. I've had 3 different cooking apparatuses on here, pots and pans. Every one of them was really hot. This is the hottest, and then it gets colder as you get up here. But even though it gets colder, it's still really hot. It's got a high heat output. This is a small teapot, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 small teapots. It is a huge cooking area. How's that front glass doing? Oh, it's getting clean. It's cleaning up. Any glass on any stove will get covered in soot, but as the fire gets hot and burns more efficiently, that soot will actually burn off of that glass too, cleaning the glass. And we'll see that once this gets really hot and, ouch, ow, ow, ow. Burn count 1, ow, that's still hot. Wow, my pant leg. That is really hot. Like I said, the glass throws heat. My leg. Be a man, burn your leg. Let's see if we can dampen it down and show you how the damper works. It goes that way. I could see it. I hope you could see the dampen down. Maybe you can even hear it. I don't know. The calming down of the fire as I dampened it. You ready? Did you hear that? Oh, I hope you heard that. Now let's tone it down. Now open roar. If you want more air, you pull the ash pan out. Like if the opening's not enough air for you, but it is. And that is just roaring. Now, I haven't had it burning too long, but the dampener opened and closed just fine, even though it's hot. Where the feeding port slides out from the main burn chamber, there is a gap in between this and this wall, a very slight gap. So when it's completely dampered down, this acts as the air intake. I don't know if that's by design or a friendly feature from just being a gap right there. But when you tone it right down, air gets sucked in here and feeds the fire. I don't find it a bad thing. At first, I thought we might get a lot of warpage in these two areas, but we haven't. The warpage on the stove is very minimum, and it doesn't affect it at all, in my opinion. I found that I've used less wood to heat my tent with this than a traditional wood stove. It takes small amounts of wood. Rocket stoves are very efficient in the way they burn wood and in the fuel that they use. You can use anything from small pieces. Longest burn time is going to be big chunks of wood. I'm pretty amazed at how well this stove heats a tent with the little amount of wood you use. It's really cool in that aspect. You're not going to get an all-night burn with this stove in your hot tent. You're not going to load it with wood and go to sleep and wake up with coals in the morning. That's just not what this stove is for. But if you're looking for a sweet looking stove, I just love the way this stove looks. If you're looking for a sweet stove that's great for cooking with a high heat output and using minimum amount of wood, this stove might be for you. If you're a stoveaholic and you love stoves, this stove might be for you. If you love beautiful pieces of art that you can use while camping, this stove might be for you. If you have an addiction to stoves, this stove might be for you. Cooking on it is fantastic. You can see I am sitting in my chair and I am stove level. Instead of being closer to the ground from a smaller stove, I want to say this is built for cooking. It's like a countertop that you cook on. It's really cool, in my opinion. It's not a cheap stove. The seller I bought it from has an Amazon store. You can get it for, I think, $530 shipped. On AliExpress, you can pick it up for about $350, but then you have $200 in shipping. So it's the same price either way you look at it, whether you want to get it from Amazon or from AliExpress. I bought mine off of AliExpress. It came without a problem. The seller sent me that piece after I told him that it was missing it. I'm not sure if you'll have the same problem and the same result to that problem. I can only speak for myself. Look at the fire come up right here. I wish I cleaned that glass off before I started this video. That's just covered in ash. That's not soot, that's just ashes. Now, I love playing with stoves, and this is a fun stove to play with. If you're a pyro and you love feeding stoves, this is gonna be a good one for you. If you don't want to feed your stove pretty often, this might not be the stove for you. It does require feeding more often than a larger stove or a regular wood stove, depending on the size material that you're using. With big logs like this, big chunks, you can get much higher burn times than with the smaller ones. With the big chunks, loading 3 pieces in, you'll probably get a good hour, maybe a little longer of burn time. This stove quickly became my favorite stove in my collection that I currently use on trips. It's just beautiful. I love the look of the stove. I love the way it operates. I really enjoy cooking on it. I like not having to wait forever for my morning coffee to boil. It's just a joy to operate, guys. I really enjoy this stove. If you guys are looking for a fun stove that's beautiful, well made, check out the Giraffe stove on Amazon or AliExpress. I'll leave links to both of those websites down in the description if you're interested. One of the coolest features of this stove, I don't have it yet, but I plan on getting it before next season. There is a pellet hopper that attaches right here where this burner is, and it turns it into a pellet stove, and I can't wait to get that attachment. There's also attachments for the sides on either side. I think there's table attachment. There's a water tank attachment you can get for it. I'm not sure how to get those other pieces, but AliExpress is probably the best bet. That's gonna about do it for this stove adventure, guys. If you like this sort of thing, think about hitting that subscribe button. I really like this stove. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. See you next time. That's still easy to move. That didn't stick at all. Ow, my leg. Burn count 2.